Welcome, everyone. Let's jump right into things today. We are going to unpack an incredibly fascinating ancient instruction manual, and we're looking specifically at its teachings on Swara Yoga and the five tattvas, or the five elements. In this explainer, we're taking a completely objective, analytical look at the source material to see exactly what ancient practitioners believed about the hidden mechanics of the human body and the universe. It's a really wild ride, so let's dive right in. Okay, so do me a quick favor. I want you to physically test your breath right this second. Seriously, hold your hand just under your nose and exhale gently. Do you feel it? Which side is pushing out more air? Is it the left nostril or is it the right? You might actually be surprised to find that it's rarely perfectly even. According to the ancient texts we're analyzing today, that subtle little difference in your breath is supposedly the key to unlocking the mysteries of your physical health, your daily success, and even your cosmic alignment. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, what is Swara Yoga? Second, how to change swars. Third, what to do when. Fourth, the five elements and the body. And finally, identifying tattvas.
Starting off with Section 1, what is Swara Yoga, the yoga of breath?
Basically, this text builds its whole foundation on the idea that our breath naturally shifts back and forth throughout the day. And these aren't just physical breaths. The author claims they carry distinctly opposite energies. The left breath is known as the Chandra Nadi, which represents lunar energy. The right breath? That's the Surya Nadi, representing solar energy. These ancient authors literally viewed the human body as a reflection of the cosmos. They believed we're constantly cycling between the cooling, calming energy of the moon and the active, heating energy of the sun, all simply by breathing. And they took this cosmic connection a step further by assigning specific days of the week and even lunar phases to each breath. The Chandra Nadi, that left side, is supposedly auspicious on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Mondays, especially during the waxing moon or Shukla Paksha. Conversely, the Surya Nadi on the right is auspicious on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Saturdays, particularly during the waning moon or Krishna Paksha. It's essentially an ancient system of timekeeping, but tied directly to the airflow in your nostrils. How wild is that? Moving right along to Section 2, how to change swars, mastering the breath. So if your breath supposedly dictates your success on a given day, what happens if the quote-unquote wrong nostril is active? Well, the author doesn't just leave you hanging. They prescribe these very precise physical steps to override your body's natural cycle. Step 1 is a specific breathing technique. You inhale through the currently active nostril and force the exhale out through the blocked one. Step 2 gets a bit more physical. You have to lie down specifically on the side of the active nostril. And step 3 is definitely the most unique, pressing a hard object firmly right under the armpit of that active side. According to the text, applying these specific physical pressures shifts the airflow completely to the opposite side. But it doesn't stop with just physical posture. What's really interesting here is the dietary hacks provided in the source material. Ancient practitioners apparently believed that certain foods could instantly alter nasal dominance. For instance, eating ghee, or clarified butter, was thought to activate the left, lunar swar. Eating honey supposedly activates the right, solar swar. And hey, if all else fails, the text just matter-of-factly suggests placing a clean cotton plug into the active nostril to manually force the switch. Which brings us to Section 3, what to do when, applying the energy. How did ancient people actually apply this energy to schedule their lives? The text makes some incredibly specific and, honestly, sometimes extreme claims. The Chandra, or left breath, is set aside for peaceful acts, marriages, and, surprisingly, distant warfare. The Surya, the right breath, is for harsh acts, riding horses or vehicles, and close combat. And then there's Sushumna. That's when both nostrils flow equally. Now, the text warns that during this specific time, travel and major actions are strictly forbidden. It is seen as a time of void. They truly, deeply believed that matching your breath to your activity guaranteed success, even in life-or-death situations like going into battle. To really grasp just how high the stakes were for these practitioners, listen to this dramatic quote right out of the text. "If the moon runs by day and the sun by night, know for certain that life is departing." Yeah. They believed profoundly in the connection between natural breath rhythms and overall vitality. If the cooling lunar breath dominated when the sun was up, or the heating solar breath dominated at night, it wasn't just an inconvenience. It was seen as a dire disruption of the cosmic order inside the body. Let's look at Section 4 now, the five elements and the body. Now we're zooming out from the micro-active breathing to the invisible forces behind it all. The text introduces the concept of pancha tattva. It posits that all living bodies, and literally the entire universe, are composed of 5 invisible elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. The author argues that without understanding these tattvas, you can't fully understand the breath. Why? Because these 5 elements are supposedly the true underlying forces dictating why our breath behaves the way it does at any given moment.
And the author actually relates this highly abstract elemental concept to a bodily function we all understand perfectly: digestion. The text claims that the fire element is what literally creates the feeling of hunger in your stomach. But if you don't eat when you're hungry and the stomach just stays empty, the fire element eventually dies down. Then the air element rushes in to take over that empty space, causing vata or gas, which ironically reduces your appetite. It's such a fascinating logical theory from antiquity, explaining exactly why your hunger just seems to vanish if you wait way too long to eat your lunch.
And finally, Section 5, How to Identify Tattvas, Sensing the Invisible. The text claims that a dedicated practitioner can literally measure, see, and taste which invisible element is currently active. Let's start with measurement. The text provides these astonishingly precise measurements for the length of your breath's exhalation, and they measure it in finger widths. When the water element is active, the breath travels out 16 finger widths from the nose. Earth travels 12. Air travels 8. And the text also notes the fire element is a short, sharp 4 finger widths. They absolutely believed you could measure your internal elemental state using nothing but your own hands. Then, you have these esoteric visualization techniques. Practitioners would do a specific gesture called Shanmukhi Mudra, which basically involves pressing the fingers over the eyes and face. The text claims that by doing this, you will literally see a color: yellow for earth, white for water, or red for fire. Alternatively, you could just exhale onto a mirror. The condensation would supposedly form a shape corresponding to the active element: a square for earth, a half moon for water, or a triangle for fire. And hey, if measuring breath or looking into mirrors wasn't quite enough, you could apparently just rely on taste. The text asserts that you can determine which element is dominating your system simply by noticing a spontaneous taste popping up in your mouth. A sudden sweet taste? That indicates earth. An astringent taste points to water. Pungent or spicy means fire is active. Sour indicates air, and a bitter taste signifies the space element. It really is an incredibly detailed sensory map of the body's internal state.
Ultimately, identifying these elements had a highly practical purpose for these ancient practitioners. The text concludes with some very clear verdicts on the overall effects of these tattvas. Earth and water are considered highly auspicious. These are the beneficial elements you want to cultivate for daily life, wealth, and success. Fire and air, however, are deemed harmful, potentially causing major loss. And the space element? Well, it's viewed as a void, yielding absolutely no results either way. So a practitioner's main goal was to ensure they were operating primarily under the influence of earth and water. Well, we've definitely covered a lot of ground today, looking objectively at this highly detailed historical system. And it leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought to ponder. If you were to adopt even a fraction of this ancient awareness, simply noticing which nostril is active, or paying closer attention to the subtle sensations and tastes in your own body, how might that actually change the way you experience your modern daily life? The next time you feel a sudden wave of hunger or step out to begin a huge project, you might just find yourself checking your breath. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.